Photographer Bill Coleman has been granted the privilege that few have had, capturing the lives of the Amish for the past 3 decades.
I probably couldn't even spell Amish correctly the first time. And I never dreamed that from what I was doing all along in State College, which I enjoyed immensely, we had a portrait studio. And we were booked up on the average 3 to 4 months in advance. And I never thought I'd give it up because I enjoyed the living hell out of it. But got caught up into this malaise of things Amish. And I realized there's a life that I want to know more about. And therefore, I thought maybe I'll spend a month or 2 doing it, but not 37 years. I look back now as, where the hell did they go, you know?
Bill described how this Amish community is unique compared to others around the state.
The children are brought up without any exposure to us to speak of. And by the time there is some exposure to us, it's minuscule and it doesn't have the effect that it would have had the children been exposed to us at a much earlier age. What's so unique about this community compared to many, many others, such as Lancaster, there's a basic innocence here that is missing in Lancaster, totally missing. And it's a pure innocence. And when it hits you and you realize this is a gem, you want to go back and you want to go back, but you might not be able to unless they take to you.
The beauty of Bill's surroundings often affect the way he perceives them.
The magic of the sky. The sky is always different. It's the magic of the sky, or the weather, or the fog, or the snow, or the rain, or the frost, or whatever, can make the same scene look totally different each time you see it. And psychologically, the mood you're in also dictates to no small extent how you will be seeing various things.
Bill lamented on the lessons that he has learned from his subject matter.
I've learned easily, amongst other things, a degree of modesty I never had. I've got some now, because when I see what these people do, and something as brief as a lifetime, I'm just overwhelmed, really. But that's indicative of what awaits me if I come back as an Amishman. I'm all for it.
Dean DeVore has been the PA announcer during some of the greatest moments in Penn State sports and has been the voice of Beaver Stadium for the past decade. I spoke to Dean about this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. His voice is unmistakable.
22 yards on the touchdown play.
His passion for Penn State sports can be heard in every play he calls and every touchdown he announces.
Penn State football has always been part of my life and something that I care deeply and passionately about, and so it's amazing to be able to do what I do and contribute and be a part of the greatest show in college football.
Dean DeVore has been the public address announcer at Beaver Stadium for 11 years and says this job is a dream come true.
I do this job for the biggest reason is to give back to the student athletes. It's really about the young men, the young women who are on the field, who are on the court. It's their game. Dean
got his start over 20 years ago when his roommates encouraged him to start announcing for Penn State sports.
When I was younger, I started working in radio, and at that point I was living with some lacrosse players, and this was about 21 years ago, and they convinced me that they wanted me to do their games. They wanted me to be their public address announcer for their lacrosse games, so that's how it started. And kind of what happened was, as other coaches and other teams heard me, they said, I want Dean, you know, I'd like Dean to do our game. So it just kind of grew and grew. When I started women's volleyball nationally was on a big upswing. That got me noticed nationally, and there was a stretch of 4 out of 5 years that I did the NCAA Women's Volleyball Championship. When the stadium came open, well, it'll be 11 years ago now, I was one of 8 people that tried out. And I think a combination of they knew who I was and the job I had done previously. Fortunately, I was able to get the job as being the voice of Beaver Stadium.
The work it takes to call each play and effortlessly pronounce each player's name doesn't happen overnight, and Dean says preparation is key.
I go over the visiting team's lineup. I start usually about Tuesday or Wednesday and start looking at their lineup, their depth chart, kind of anticipating where there might be some names that I'm going to say a lot that I may not know. I mean, it's probably about a 2 to 3 hour prep time to get to the game itself, and then the day of the game I go over pronunciations and any information with the opposing sports information director, and then our great sports information director, Jeff Nelson.
Dean says having his 2 spotters on hand helps to ensure the accuracy of each call.
As the ball's handed off or passed, the offensive spotter gives me the number of the people involved. I usually then make that announcement, and then the defensive spotter gives me the numbers of the players that were involved in the tackle. And then I usually make that announcement. Then we take a few seconds, figure out what the down and distance is, then I make that announcement. While that's going on, I also have in my earpiece Guido D'Elia and all the people that help make the greatest show in college football. So there's a lot going on up there. Some of it you can see and some of it you can't, and so makes for an interesting 3 hours. So by the time I'm done, I feel like I have a lot of voices in my head, and it's, you know, I'm ready for some peace and quiet after the game.
No matter what else he does in life, Dean says nothing compares to being a part of some of the greatest moments in Penn State sports.
There's a lot of memories and a lot of kind of key moments. I can remember Adam Talaferro coming out of the tunnel, announcing his name after the comeback, announcing Joe Paterno's, at that time, 324th win, which was the, you know, the signature win to get him #1 in active coaches. I mean, all those things, those little things, but it really goes back to the student athlete and making sure that their name is said right, that their accomplishments on the field and on the court are amplified and highlighted so that their experience here is good and we can all enjoy it.
Coming up, I'll sit down with the very talented musician Tommy Wareham, and later a behind-the-scenes tour of the newly opened Med Express.